Jorgenson, I said earlier, he'll win the Tour one day, that guy. He's got a demeanour about him and an aura about him that reminds me so much of some of the great riders, Miguel Indurain, people like that, the way he pushes his height and the way he time trials. But his mannerisms off the bike, he's a very calming figure, and he'll make a great team leader.
Everybody, welcome back to The Move. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan, Bruyneel, and we're lucky enough to be joined by Sir Bradley Wiggins, and we are breaking down Paris-Nice and Tirreno-Adriatico, two 1 week races that just wrapped up. Matteo Jorgenson, the American, won his second consecutive overall title at Paris-Nice, and Juan Ayuso, Tadej Pogacar's understudy, I guess we could call him, wins Tirreno-Adriatico. Before we get into the analysis, though, I want to take a quick break to talk about our sponsors for the episode. The first one is Peak Teas, which offer a wide range of dissolvable teas designed to reset your gut, enhance metabolism, and optimize your energy levels. And while they offer a lot of different products that are very easy to use and I highly recommend, and I've been using all of them, my favorite is their Nandaka adaptogenic coffee alternative. It's my go-to because while I love coffee, sometimes I love it a little bit too much. The jitters, the crash, the why am I on my third cup already feeling is not great at 10 a.m. So that's why every morning I've been reaching for my Nandaka by Peak, a rich coffee alternative that gives you clean energy and focus without the downsides of caffeine. It's packed with wild harvested adaptogens, the kind of stuff that helps your body adapt to stress, support immunity, and keep your brain sharp. And what's the best part? It's smooth, satisfying, and actually tastes amazing. None of that weak, watered down substitute nonsense. Whether you're training, working, or just trying to stay locked in on all these races and classics coming up, I mean, this is the big time of year for us, Johan. Peaks Nandaka delivers steady, jitter-free energy that lasts all through the day. And their Peaks teas are wild harvested from 250-year-old tea trees, toxin screened for purity, and crafted with cold extraction technology for maximum absorption. And so they can instantly dissolve in hot or cold water, perfect for people on the go. That's my favorite part about them. You can just throw them in hot water in the morning or cold water. So your first cup of coffee, your first cup of water for the day, just throw some Peak teas in there. And for a limited time, you get 20. This is a crazy deal. I say this every time, but it is crazy. You get 20% off for life if you sign up now, plus a free starter kit, which has a rechargeable frother and glass beaker when you grab their Peak bundle with our link, peaklife.com/themove. And with Peak's 90-day money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose. Try it now at peaklife.com/themove to get that 20% off for life deal and feel the difference on your next ride. Our next sponsor is Maui Nui, the only source for Maui's exceptionally healthy, wild harvested access deer meat. Maui Nui's line of 100% wild harvested red meat is an extremely healthy option that delivers the highest protein to calorie ratio available, 53% more than grass-fed beef. They're protein-free. They're not protein-free. They're sugar-free peppered sticks pack often offer 10 grams of protein at just 55 calories and are loaded with essential nutrients, vitamins, and healthy fats, and are the perfect snack to stay fueled between meals, pre or post-workout, or most importantly, on the go. You're in an airport, you don't want to get bad food. Just pack some of these. Everyone's telling you need, like 50,000 grams of protein for every 1,000 calories. And you think, how is that possible? Well, these peppered sticks are a perfect way to do it. And one of the best parts of ordering from Maui Nui Venison is that not only are you getting healthy, delicious meat delivered right to your door, but you're playing a key role in their mission to reclaim abundant food systems and preserve the delicate native ecosystem on Maui. And they're offering the Move listeners a limited collection of their favorite cuts and products, but supply is limited by the nature of their work, so don't wait. Head to MauiNuiVenison.com/themove to secure your access now. That's Maui Nui Venison, like the island, MAUINUI, venison.com/themove, spelled out. I used to live on Maui. I know firsthand how out of control these deer are and how hard it is to get food sourced on the island. So I highly recommend this product, MauiNuiVenison.com/themove. All right, back into the show. So let's just get everyone up to speed, and then people don't want to hear me talk, so I'll get out of it as quickly as possible, and then we'll get your guys' view on the analysis. But American Matteo Jorgenson was isolated from his Visma Lisa bike team today on the notoriously difficult day at Paris-Nice. Didn't stop him. Won his second straight Paris-Nice overall title, which is super impressive. And his American compatriot Magnus Sheffield won the final stage. Over at Tirreno-Adriatico, UAE's Juan Ayuso, like I would almost say effortlessly, won the overall. Wasn't even that focused on it seemed like. Was doing whatever he wanted to do all week. Still won the overall with the single uphill finish and the time trial. Filippo Ganna got second. Heaviest guy, I believe, of all time to finish on the podium at Tirreno. Little Trek's Jonathan Milan won the final sprint today. Why a 1 week stage race finishes with the final sprint, I have no idea. But so we can spend as much time as we want on Paris-Nice. Let's start with Tirreno. Johan, what were your thoughts on this race? And then we'll get to yours, Bradley.
Well, we spoke about yesterday's stage on Friday, I guess. Yeah, like right, Spencer. We said,
wait,
okay, this is Ayuso's race to win. I think I said Ayuso's going to win the mountain stage and the overall. I mean, effortlessly, I wouldn't call it effortlessly, but he was for sure the strongest, not just yesterday, the whole week. He was always there whenever it was difficult. In my opinion, did a little bit too much work sometimes in the other stages. But yesterday, that didn't matter. He had a great lead out, impressive tempo of Isaac del Toro. That was basically the one who ripped the front group apart. Eliminated Filippo Ganna already with his tempo, and then Ayuso just looked around a little bit and just went, not really an attack, I would say, just a little acceleration, and then just kept his tempo to the top. So yeah, I mean, I was not surprised, but still, let's not forget he's still very, very young, and it's clear that he's a natural leader. That's why we said, he's never going to race together with Pogacar in the same team, because it's not in his DNA to be a domestique. He always wants to be the leader, and whenever he is the leader, he delivers, I have to say. You like him or not, but the guy is real. Let's not forget, he was 19 and he got third in the Vuelta in his first year professional. He won the Baby Giro also, but before that. And I mean, he's a top rider. I mean, if you talk about guys for the future, the big talents, he's definitely one of them. And I mean, second in the time trial behind Filippo Ganna, it was almost logical. With just one hard stage uphill finish, that's a bit of a strange design, I think, this race. Not really like several hard stages. It was the time trial, then a bunch of stages for sprinters, and then this one uphill finish. So it's pretty clear who does the best time trial and then climbs the best is going to win. And I think that's what we saw.
Was it suspiciously good for Filippo Ganna?
Suspiciously good.
Remember then when the Tour of Suisse had that 1 year where it was like perfectly set out for Fabian Cancellara, and then he wins the overall? A little hometown cooking in that course design, possibly.
Well, the course design was obviously good for Filippo Ganna. I mean, the time trial and then this one climb of 8 kilometers, 8%. But as we said, 8 kilometers, 8%. You have to be a climber. Filippo Ganna in great shape can limit the losses, but he can't win. What do you think, Bradley?
I mean, on his day, he's a class act, isn't he? Anyone who can produce the power he produces for the hour record, for World Time Trial Championships and various other races we've seen him win, is capable of an all-out effort on an 8-kilometer climb to limit his losses. And he did that this week. And obviously he scraped up into second place on GC today with the time bonuses. But they're definitely seeking an Italian winner, aren't they? After the Nibali years and after the Gazzelli. I think it was Gazzelli the last Italian winner in 2009. I think I saw that the other day. Or maybe Nibali in that interim period as well. Yeah. So they've been dry in terms of wins, in recent years. And I think it was good to see Ganna performing well, but also Jonathan Milan as well. It's good for something for the Italians to cheer about. But in terms of GC, since Nibali has retired, they have been a bit thin on the ground in terms of someone who could actually win the Giro or win the Tour de France. And that's been a long time coming. We've seen that for a few years now. But yeah, I mean, it's a quality race, isn't it, Tirreno? And obviously the dates have changed now. It used to finish on a Wednesday, didn't it, or Tuesday, which was just before Milan-Sanremo, and now it runs, parallel with the Paris-Nice race. And so we've had a lesser field at Tirreno the last few years, and Paris-Nice seems to be the one. It is more very, very. It's a similar pattern to the Tour de France. It's similar racing, similar style of racing, similar roads, of course. But I think Paris-Nice on paper this year looked tougher of the two in terms of preparation. But yeah, I mean, he still delivered the goods, didn't he, on that climb, the young.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Also, he had a very strong team, and I don't think there was any doubt that he was going to be the big favorite. Because if you look, okay, Ganna second, then third is Tiberi. He's never won a GC in the past.
No,
good rider, solid rider, but he's just one level below guys like I think quality wise, Ayuso is just like a little bit more of pedigree than a guy like Tiberi, who's more like a regular rider, right? So, but hey, Tiberi's pretty good also. He's I expected
a really good Giro last year, like really good.
Yeah,
I mean, we should.
I was impressed with Tom Pidcock all round this season. Really, I think since he's made that jump out of the Ineos ship, I think that's been a good move for him. And he looks a lot more mature this year. He looks like he's taking on the responsibility and leadership. And he came, I did see his interview yesterday where he said that he actually let the wheel go. Now, whether that was a bit of sort of, whether he was a bit of a psychological, I don't know if he was a little bit embarrassed that he got ridden off the wheel and perhaps said I could have stayed with him, but that's still nonetheless a good week for Tom. I mean, that's better than he's done in the past. I know he's won a lot of races, but, coming off that Olympic year last year with the mountain bike and if he can keep that focus to the Giro, I mean, he's going to be on the podium at the Giro if he keeps up at this rate.
Well, that's a big ask, but it's not impossible. He's definitely. I mean, it's a different Pidcock than what we're used to see, especially in stage races, right?
Yeah,
he's been.
You say it's difficult, Johan. You say it's difficult, but that's what his calling card is. This is a guy who is being touted as Britain's next Tour de France winner, so you'd expect him to make that jump up at some point, and I think this is a make or break year in terms of can Pidcock win a Grand Tour.
Yeah, well, I think he can, but he needs to improve his time trialing. Very, very. I mean, depends on the course. It depends on the course, of course, but time trialing is not great until now. He's obviously he can't produce the power of those big guys, but he's tiny, he's arrow, and I mean, he if I'm not mistaken, he's been world champion time trial, in the juniors.
I believe so.
Yeah. So listen, we all know that he's a super talent, right? And I think what the biggest change, what I see, is that he races very differently. He races very with eager, like he's very eager to race. He knows that he's the leader of the team. I've heard from people within the team that as soon as he showed up at the first training camp, he behaved as a leader, and it also lifted the whole this team Q36.5 to a different level. We've performances of some of these guys that we've never heard of before. I think for both, for Pidcock, but for the team also, it's been a great move.
Just to support, that sounds shocking when you say that, Brad, about the Giro. But here, Juan Ayuso's first. This is on the Queen stage yesterday. Tom Pidcock second, 13 seconds back. Jai Hindley is behind Tom Pidcock, 13 seconds back. Jai Hindley's won the Giro recently. Mikel Landa, fourth, 15 seconds back. Tiberi, 20 seconds back, was really good at the Giro last year. Derek G, really good at the Tour last year. He's sixth. And then you have like Simon Yates, 50 seconds back and 14th. Adam Yates, 20th. He was probably working for Juan Ayuso, 114 back. But those are seriously good GC climbers that Tom Pidcock's beating. So I agree with Johan on the TT. It's like, well, how do you finish sixth at Tirreno? But that was not a good time trial for Tom Pidcock. It did make me think, and he looks like emotionally, he looks 100 pounds lighter emotionally. Like he looks different on the bike this year versus last year, where everything felt plodding and heavy and like it just wasn't coming easy to him.
Yeah.
We should also mention Ganna was only, this is crazy, by the way. This guy is listed at 83 kilos. He was 50 seconds back on that summit finish.
I've seen an interview yesterday where Ganna says he's 86 kilos.
86 kilos. Johan, everyone's going to be 120 kilos by next year at this rate. What is going on?
I don't think so. Listen, this is an exception. It's, the guy's, has so much power. He's an incredible athlete. And that's why I said, it's not because, the Poggio, the Cipressa, his performance on Col de Rat, for example, was pretty good. Yesterday, 8 kilometers, 8%. That's already a little bit too much. And okay, if you can do it, if only once in a stage, yeah. But if you have multiple of those climbs in a stage, then with that kind of weight, there's just no way. There's just no way you can do it. But still, listen. Second in Tirreno for Ganna in the overall. That's pretty incredible.
Well, we have the man himself here. What do you think, Brad? You went from a big track guy to hey, someone said, hey, you've got the power. Can you do that on a bunch of climbs?
Yeah. The thing with Ganna, the majority of training now and training for the track and, him training for the hour record, he had a lot of years doing the track program. They spend so much time at altitude in Livigno or Tenerife. And even now he'll be doing that with Ineos. Whether you're a sprinter, a climber, or a time trialist, or a classics rider, the bulk of the training now is individual efforts up climbs doing threshold. That's kind of the adopted training mechanism now for every rider, certainly within Ineos. So you get used to riding on your own and riding at your threshold powers. It's all about increasing threshold power to increase your overall physical power. And gone are the days where riders like in Johan's era would go out and just do 6 hours and do a bunch of climbs, but nothing specific. And then obviously as things moved on with SRMs and power and stuff, you'd have guys training for the mountains and the Tour. But classic riders would very rarely use SRMs. Mark Cavendish, it took him 15 years to use an SRM. But Ganna is used to that now. So he's used to monitoring his effort over a climb like that and working out how I can get from A to B as fast as possible. And so, he knows he's got a good 20, 30 minutes of this is a guy, don't forget, who can average near 500 watts for half an hour on the flat. So if he can do that on the climb, even at 83, 86 kilos, he's gonna push to stay with the front group. And he's a big guy as well. So he's not someone who you can push out the line when he's on sixth or seventh wheel. This is a guy who's got presence as well. So everyone sort of lets him ride and he's got a great team around him. But I think, Ganna, he's got a climbing like that in him. Some of the time trials he's won in the past on the Giro and that haven't been flat. He's capable of producing those sort of performances on different terrains. And I said earlier, I do think that if he can get over the Cipressa and the Poggio, which I think he will, because he will certainly be in the front going into the Poggio, he's going to be one of the favourites for Milan-Sanremo because it's only a narrow climb. He can ride good position into the wheels and get into the front when they turn right up the climb. But as I say, this is a new generation of riders now and a new sort of breed of animals that we saw Mads Pedersen doing a very similar thing in Paris-Nice, climbing with the front. And it's a new sport to when I was doing it, and even more so since Johan was doing it. And, you just have good all-round athletes now. And obviously you have your climbers and things, but there is this sort of new hybrid athlete, a bit like Ganna, that can pretty much do everything despite their weight.
Yeah. It's still impressive, but I agree, Brad. He's for Milan-Sanremo. He's one of the guys. He was there already last year and the year before. When Van der Poel won, he was one of those four, right? So
he was. Yeah,
the way he's riding now, he's absolutely going to be there. It just depends. It just depends on if, in my opinion, I think it's going to depend on how good Matteo is or how good Tadej is. Those are the two only guys who can actually ride away. The others, Peterson and Ganna and Pidcock will follow. And could be tactical, but anyway, Ganna is definitely one of the favorites. I agree. Because if they don't get rid of him and they look at each other, and after the downhill of the Poggio, he's gone. Give him 5 meters.
Yeah. One of the predictable things with Milan-Sanremo, and particularly this year's Milan-Sanremo, is where Pogacar and Van der Poel are going to attack. You know, it's there's a blueprint to that for those type of guys as to how to win. So Ganna, and it will dictate the tactics, won't it?
But do we know if Pogacar is not going to attack on the Cipressa?
I was just wondering about that, Johan.
Well, that would go away from the norm, wouldn't it? So that would throw a different spanner in the works.
Yeah.
But you know, historically in that race, you know, it always goes with that in that last kilometre and a half of the climb, which sort of flattens off, and that's where Pogacar's gone the last few years. That's where Van der Poel's gone. And they do say that if you get to that corner with 15 seconds, you can win from there. You need 15 seconds on the corner. But yeah, someone's got to try something different, because how many times has Pogacar done that and no one's been able to do anything about it? So it's going to be interesting. I think Ineos will plan their tactics around knowing that that's where they're going to attack and try and preempt that with something before, maybe, or having many riders there in numbers to make sure that Ganna and they block the road, essentially. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see next week.
Well, on the vein of Milan-Sanremo, after that summit finish yesterday, Ganna was third. He finished second overall. Tiberi was third, Derek G fourth. Well, how did he get into second? Because Jonathan Milan, not his teammate on the road, but his national team teammate on the track, led him out for an intermediate sprint. Look, he looked pretty good in that sprint. He was slipping, sliding all over the road with the wet spot, still won it, got the time bonus to jump into second overall, and then Ganna led out Milan for the final sprint. Milan a little challenged more by Sam Bennett than I thought he would be. I didn't even know Sam Bennett. I frankly forgot about him. I was like, who is this?
I didn't know he was in the race. I didn't know he was in the race.
I couldn't tell who was sprinting against Milan. Milan looks pretty fast in those sprints, though. I mean, I guess everything you're saying, Brad, about Sanremo, is it all spoiled if Philipsen or Milan make it over the Poggio and into the group at the end? I mean, that's where the Ganna late attack would be hard to stop, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where there's different options, isn't there? I mean, if Philipsen gets over, you know, again, he's got the problem? The problem with Van der Poel. You know, which one of those does Van der Poel then ride for Philipsen when they get over the top and it's all together? I mean, that's what's such a beautiful thing about Milan-Sanremo. That's what makes it such a spectacle. It goes down to the wire every year.
It's very.
But it's going to be
probably the most unpredictable classic, the most unpredictable monument of the five. I mean, with the firepower, if you look at Ganna, Pedersen, Van der Poel, Pidcock, and Pogacar, man, it has to be a tactical. You know, if these guys go full, I can't see Milan or Philipsen be there at the top. They can come back though. It depends, you know, how much advantage they have. It's normally never more than 10 seconds, right, at the top.
Yeah.
So that depends. Yeah, that's the beauty of Milan-Sanremo.
I think that. I don't think Philipsen will. I think that day will be clearly the leader will be Van der Poel, and I think that all eggs would be in the Van der Poel basket, and I don't think they're going to look around for Philipsen, to be honest, because Van der Poel, you know, this is the start of his season, isn't it? Really, these races.
Yeah, and he doesn't race that much. You know, he doesn't race that much, so all of these races are for him. Listen, when did he win? Was it 2 years ago he won?
Yeah, and then Philipsen won last year.
That attack was impressive. In my opinion, from what I've seen from Van der Poel now in Tirreno, I think he's better than then. You know, he did his first race, won. I mean, it was not a high-level race, but still won. And now he showed a few times in Tirreno that he's really going for it. You know, today he attacked just for fun. You know, he was just out there for a bunch of kilometers playing with everybody on the climb. And I think Van der Poel has his eyes set on Milan-Sanremo big time.
Before we move to Paris-Nice, I mean, maybe I'm just a coddled. I've been racing too many criteriums in the U.S. Did the final circuit today at Tirreno look a little janky to you guys? It was like they're like doing turns in the apex. This is like the circuit that they're doing multiple times. Apex of the turn, there's like a stoplight. There's like road furniture everywhere. It felt a little strange.
That's Italy. That's just Italy.
Like, shocking how bad some of the roads were. It was if you gave me the choice between that and Paris-Nice, I might pick Paris-Nice.
Yeah, no, that's Italy through and through. You know, you'd never be surprised to have some little old lady crossing the road with a dog or something. You know, even the finish straight. You know, when you look at the cameras going down the finish straight, whoever lines the barriers up, they're always sort of in a squiggly
They were,
line.
they were not straight.
It's just it's some things never change with Italy, and it's kind of that's the beauty about racing in Italy. I think is the sort of the chaos and the, you know, just how disorganized it can appear sometimes compared to, you know, the sort of professional, clean, crisp sort of organization of ASO in Paris-Nice and races like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, in terms of, I think it was the same circuit as always. No, they're in San Benedetto del Tronto.
Was it?
I mean, they have a finish there often, unless the road works and there's been some changes. But yeah, they've done that many times, that circuit.
They could spruce it up, probably. It was just my biased take, I guess. But do you guys have anything else to say? Well, also, before we move on, so now you have me thinking about Sanremo. Like, what if Pogačar didn't attack? Like, what if he just sits in the group and then counts on his ability to handle those climbs so much better than everybody else that he has more left in the sprint? Is that like a viable alternative? He's got to attack.
No.
Depends who's there, doesn't it? It depends how many riders there. I think Pogačar's secret weapon is attacking to minimize the group. I think if too many guys get over that climb, other riders will get over the climb, and then I don't think he stands a chance. He's got to attack, hasn't he? And to be fair to Pogačar, I don't know if he's capable of sitting back. You know, he's just, you know, at some point he's guaranteed to attack, isn't he, in the race?
I like your Treacherous idea.
Johan. He will attack, Spencer. He will attack. If he has the legs, he will attack.
What's that mountain pass in the middle of the race that's not even on TV?
You know.
Yeah, we could go there maybe.
Well, one year, it's been won from the Turchino already when Chiappucci won. No, sorry, Bruyneel. When Bruyneel won with Chiappucci, I think they were gone already from the Turchino. It was really bad weather. Yeah,
1990.
Different
1990. You did 100K.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Bruyneel is not like it's not like you're letting some unknown go off the front. Like they knew he was gone. They're like, yeah, we'll pull him back, I guess.
He was very strong, man. Let me tell you, he was very, very strong, Johnny Bruyneel.
Yeah, I mean that's a long way. That's
that year he won the Giro that year as well, didn't he? He led from start to finish in the Giro.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So are you guys done with Tirreno? Any more thoughts to share? Johan, did you hear anything about Adam Yates? Because he's going to the Giro, right?
He's going to the Giro. Yeah, him and Ayuso together. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I just kind of wonder where he's at. Do you think he was working for Ayuso at this race? Like, was that part of the plan, or that's just kind of how it worked out?
He would, because if you look at yesterday's stage, he was at the wheel of Del Toro, and then it was Ayuso. And then after, I mean, Del Toro was putting such a high pace that Adam Yates had to, go out and just went to the left and got dropped. But the plan was that he would be the last guy to set the tempo on the climb. I mean, I don't know. I mean, something tells me that Adam Yates, obviously, he's a great rider, but he's not getting any younger, and these young guys are coming very, very fast. And I think both of the Yates brothers, they're still great, but I think we've seen the best of them already in the past. And for them now to go for a Grand Tour win, I think the competition is too tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's felt a little bit like watching the Polish army, like the cavalry ride in versus the Panzer tanks today, where it's like, oof, like some of these, like Ayuso, it just feels like the sport's moving so fast. Like guys are getting better at such a rapid pace. And then as Brad said about Pidcock, where if he's supposed to be the next British Tour winner, the next step is him like podium at the Giro. Like for Ayuso, he's already podiumed at a Grand Tour when he was a teenager. So what's the next step? It's probably contesting the Giro d'Italia this year.
Logically, yes.
Yeah. Assuming he gets better. But Before we talk about Paris-Nice, we have one more sponsor to talk about, and that is Helix Sleep. If you're out there logging big rides, training hard, or just trying to get through the day without feeling like a zombie, you know how important real recovery is, and that's built on the cornerstone of sleep. And that's why I finally made a switch to Helix. I took their sleep quiz online, just went on their website, took 2 minutes, and they matched me with the Helix Midnight Lux. The first night, it was a total game changer. I woke up feeling rested, and get this, checked my sleep data from my Garmin watch, and my deep sleep had doubled. I was really struggling with deep sleep on my old mattress. So this was a game changer. No more waking up drenched in sweat, no more back stiffness. And my wife, she loves it too, because she does not get woken up by me tossing and turning at night, worrying about, is Juan Ayuso going to win a Grand Tour? What's going on here? So when I move around thinking about how Pogacar can win Milano-Sanremo, she's not waking up pissed at me the next morning. If you're serious about performance on the bike or just in life, or if you have young kids and you're just trying to get as much sleep as possible, oh man, I can tell you that's important. You need quality sleep. Helix gets that. That's why they have an exclusive deal just for you. Go to helixsleep.com/themove and get 20% off your order. That's helixsleep.com/themove, spelled out THEMOVE, for 20% off. Invest in your recovery, get the best sleep of your life, and thank me later. They also have kids mattresses that I'm quite interested in, because the better your kids sleep, the better you sleep. That's not even in the copy. That's me just wanting to buy more Helix products. But Paris-Nice, just to catch everybody up, Matteo Jorgenson was not the leader of Visma at the start of this race, went into the final day after Jonas Vingegaard had left due to injury in about the middle. I think it was like stage 5. He had, I believe, a 37-second advantage on Florian Lipowitz from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Note, the TV coverage starts. Why this is not start-to-finish coverage baffles me, but they start the coverage. He's already isolated from his team. In theory, kind of a tricky situation. Magnus Sheffield from Ineos, the team of Thymen Arensman, who was in 3rd place at the start of the stage, rides off the front. In theory, puts Matteo in a little bit of a vice there. Mads Pedersen is also off the front, I guess, trying to get green jersey points. Really impressive ride. I mean, those are legit mountains that he's climbing over as a hybrid sprinter classics rider. But Matteo just didn't really panic, kind of kept the gap as close as he could, and then he attacked, dropped everybody else. Didn't catch Sheffield before the line. Magnus Sheffield wins his first World Tour win of his career, his first win in 3 years. He really needed that. Jorgensen finished about, 10, 15 seconds back, gets his second consecutive overall Paris-Nice victory. I mean, and when you start to think about, he won by a minute 15 over Lipowitz. I went back. That's the biggest margin of victory since 1995. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but like Paris-Nice is normally won by seconds. So that's a big victory. I think he had some struggles on climbs due to cold, and we're talking like losing seconds, handfuls of seconds, not cracking. But when you look at it, he was pretty confident all week, like didn't seem that fazed by anything, including his team completely not being around him. And like, if you look at the list of double winners of Paris-Nice or multi-time Paris-Nice winners, it's like pretty rare company. And he's going on like this is his part-time job. His day job is leading Visma at the classics, which he starts now. So we're dealing with a pretty impressive Palmares here. Like, Johan, what's your take on what this means for Matteo and where's he going from here?
Well, I think it's a great confirmation. If you listen to his interview after the stage, he said, he's been only thinking about this race, solely about this race for the last 4 months. So it was a big goal for him. That's why I said, in the other podcast, and I think, I want to repeat that. I think that Matteo Jorgenson should have been the designated leader of Visma, even with Jonas, because Jonas has, let's face it, Jonas, once you've won the Tour twice, there's only one thing that you have to do is win the Tour again. It doesn't, if Jonas, for example, has a season, let's say he wins Paris-Nice and he wins Catalunya, and he's second or third in the Tour, everybody's going to say, okay, it's not a good season. Once you've won the Tour and you go back, you need to win it again. That's the way they judge you. It's and of course I understand Vingegaard wants to win all these big races like Paris-Nice and like Catalonia. He already won the Basque Country. He's going to want to win the Tour of Switzerland in the future, I guess. But for a guy like Jonas, and knowing what the value is of a rider like Matteo, it shouldn't even come from the team, in my opinion. It should be a guy like Jonas who says, hey, okay, I'm here. I want to prepare. I want to do good. But if it really comes down to the wire, Matteo, you're the leader, and I'll do whatever I can for you, because I know what you mean for me in the month of July and a lot of other races. So that's just me saying it from the sideline. Yeah, I don't know what the conversation has been within Visma, what Matteo has said, but we all know that this is a big deal for Matteo Jorgenson. This is like the highlight of his season. And then he wants to be on a good level in the classics and a good level in the Tour. But we know that in the Tour, he's not going to have any personal ambitions. He's always going to be there for Jonas. But, the way he repeats his victory and the way he confirms, I think it's very promising for the future. He's a very, very complete rider. He can time trial, he can climb. He knows how to race really well. He takes advantage of circumstances. Like that the second or the third last day in the wind with the team, of course. And then today, being isolated with 60K to go, basically. There was 30, 40 riders left, not one single teammate left. He didn't panic and just waited till the last climb and then just put his own tempo. And you know that when you're isolated and you're strong, if you go fast on the last climb, there's going to be 3 or 4 riders with you, maximum. It's going to be all single guys, so they won't have teammates. So that was the best tactic, and that's what he did. And then finally, he went away by himself. So yeah, repeating this victory, Paris-Nice is not an easy race to win. It's usually a race that, especially now in this format. Brad, I know you won it, and I think it was harder, and it was the last day was time trial up Col d'Ez, right? So
yeah, it's definitely a lot harder than it is now. Yeah,
and it's but to win, if you're the strongest, it's easier to win.
Yeah, no, it's
that format rather than now.
Yeah. So it's a tough week's racing, and I think this week was one of the toughest editions I've seen because of the weather. Mm-hmm. It really, the weather really turned on from this week, didn't it? And I think today was the first day I saw him riding in shorts and short sleeves. So, but it was interesting what you said about that dynamic between Jorgenson and Jonas. And I'm not too sure with Jonas where I stand with him on this one, because obviously he's a class act, and as you say, he's trying to win a third Tour. The disappointment last year of having that big crash where he was out for the first part of the season and came back for the Tour and did better than everyone expected. But since then, Tade's gone on a trajectory where he's just continued winning in the most dominant style we haven't seen since Eddie Merckx. And I wonder if Jonas psychologically, now with all the talk of Tadej Pogačar and the super year he had last year, whether he wants to, because 2 years ago when Jonas won the Tour for the second time, it looked as though Jonas was the stronger rider of the two and he was going to reign for the next few years and win those Tours. And Tadej since then has his performances have gone through the roof, and the gap seems to have opened between them two now. So I wonder with Jonas whether he wants to now really stamp his authority on this season. And the way he attacked the other day when his teammate had the yellow jersey on that climb, it really looked like the aggression in him looked like he was trying to make a statement. And obviously watching Tadej win in Strade Bianche the week before, I think Jonas really wanted to come back and put his stamp down on this Paris-Nice, that I'm really going to be a Tour contender this year. And I'm not going to play second fiddle again. But, in doing that, was he a little bit more nervous? We saw him have a crash. He broke his hand again, I believe. And it's a shame. It's not broken. No. Well, he retired with that hand, didn't he? And I think, I think that's going to be, it's a big one for Jorgenson, as we said. And it may have served Jonas better to operate, as you said, and give him the reins this week and work for him and really give him something back for July when he knows he's going to return that favour. But, it's still early season, isn't it? And they're still all, realistically, they're all still chasing Tadej. Tadej is going to be the clear favourite in the Tour de France this year. But Jonas, as we know, is the only one who can really challenge him on his day. and he's done it in the past, and he nearly did it last year, even with the injury early season. But it's funny that cycling's got to that point now where it's just an arms race, and it's also a psychological battle, even when they're not at the same races. When you think 15, 20 years ago, you didn't see the Tour riders until Dauphiné, did you, or Midi-Libre? And now it's just, I mean, it's great to watch. But Jorgenson, I said earlier, he'll win the Tour one day, that guy. He's got a demeanor about him and an aura about him that reminds me so much of some of the great riders, Miguel Indurain, people like that, you know, the way he pushes his height and the way he time trials. But his mannerisms off the bike, he's a very calming figure, and he'll make a great team leader one day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, we'll see where, because I guess he's like 2 or 3 years younger than Tadej, and probably 4 or 5 years younger than Johan. So,
he's a little older than you'd think. He's 25, and then if you can believe it or not, Tadej Pogačar is 26 years old.
Oh, okay.
He's not that old. But yeah, Jonas is older.
Yeah. Jonas is what, 28?
I think he's 28. But you know who this? So this is not that, I guess, fun to talk about in a podcast. This is probably just all good news for Visma, because if they realistically want to beat Pogačar, they need 2 leaders. But do you remember how they beat Pogačar in 2022? They had 2 leaders. Like, they had this upstart young guy, Jonas Vingegaard, who had finished second at the Tour unexpectedly. Primož Roglič was the team leader back then. It's hard to remember now, but he was. Yeah. And then you had this young rider kind of slowly usurp him. And this reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah, they'll need to use tactically Jorgenson very, very smartly during the Tour. And I'm sure they will.
Do you want to, I mean, the last 4 winners of Paris-Nice are Matteo Jorgenson, Tadej Pogačar, Primož Roglič. It's pretty good company to be in.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. Yeah.
You remember the last rider to win it 2 years in a row? Is a hard one. It's
Sean Kelly, wouldn't it? It'd be Sean Kelly or Miguel Indurain, maybe.
It's almost impossible to get right. Johan, do you have a guess?
Yeah, I know who this. Max Schachmann.
Yeah. Is that crazy?
Oh, God, yeah.
Recently, too. 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
I think 1 year he won it because Primož crashed in the last stage, and the other one was COVID. And I guess it got cut short. The last stage, or the last 2 stages, didn't happen, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But this is, I mean, Sean Kelly won this race 7 times in a row, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy, by the way. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know who has the record on the Col d'Azur time trial? So
it's got to be you, right?
Do you have it?
I think it's me, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bring back the time trial of the Col d'Azur. Bring it back.
It was great. What a great... I was watching one the other day from 92 when Jean-Francois Bernard won, and it was amazing. That what a way to finish Col d'Azur that was. It's just funny that they've gone away from those traditions, isn't it? A bit like Tirreno always used to finish with the time trial, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It was always the time trial the last day, and Col d'Azur was the time trial in Paris. I think it was a great way to finish.
Yeah, it was.
I like this road race though. This course that they do at the end of Paris-Nice. I mean, Jorgensen being so strong kind of ruined it, but you can get some pretty wild finishes. Like, remember when Marc Soler, didn't he win by like 3 seconds because of time bonuses on the stage?
Last stage, I mean, since they finished there in Nice, and the last stage is always war, and it's always been unpredictable, and it's been sometimes came down to the wire a lot of times.
How do we feel about just how isolated Jorgensen was? To me, this is becoming a big problem.
No, it was to be expected. I mean, you know, once Jonas was out, I mean, if you look at the composition of the team, it's only logical. You know, you have Kampenaerts, you have what's his name, the other Norwegian guy, the young guy,
yeah.
You have Bart Lemon. Bart Lemon is somebody, he should have been in that group of 30, 40. But, you know, let's not forget all the work they've done, you know, the whole week. They've been on the front the whole time. And I mean, Jorgensen said it. He expected to be isolated. But then again, you know, I mean, even if you're isolated, your rivals, his rivals was Lipovic and Arnsman, those two. I mean, it's not that difficult to control those guys, you know.
Well, we were hearing about, you know, Ineos, they're cutting lunches. There's no one's got food at Manchester United anymore. They really got to cut back. They might have got a cash infusion from Matteo Jorgenson because they were doing a lot of work on the front when he was isolated. Like he was in no danger because he had this wonderful team on the front doing all this work for him.
Brad, what's your opinion on?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny. I mean, it's funny how that now with Ineos, that's deemed success is to win the last stage of Paris-Nice. And everyone's praising Ineos today because they rode on the last climb, or they rode 50K to go, and they got the stage win, which is great. But, you know, this was a team at one time that was hoping to win all 3 Grand Tours in a year. And it's funny, it's a bit like this at Man United at the moment, you know, how quickly the standard gets lowered now. And Man United now are just hoping, you know, to get back into Europe next year or whatever. But, you know, it's funny. I find it amazing that, you know, now Ineos's level of success is winning a stage for the week, which is much a bit like all the French teams want to do, win a stage in Paris-Nice. And you know, years ago that would have been, you know, not even bare minimum. I mean, they didn't even used to go for stage wins. It was all about Grand Tour and GC. So I find it odd with the budget that they have and the team structure they have and the money and the riders they have, that now is where they're at, you know, in Ineos. They've won a stage in Paris-Nice and they can rest a bit, you know. But this is, as I say, this is a team that was, you know, trying to win all 3 Grand Tours in a year, not that long ago.
It's definitely
so I'm not that impressed, no. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at the last few years, Brad, I mean, the way they're racing this year, they've changed completely strategy. You know, they're not focused anymore on GC. I think we've seen a different attitude of Team Ineos during the whole season already. And obviously, you know, it's something that's been told to the guys. I mean, if you see how happy they were after the stage, it's like, you know, I agree with you. I mean, they if we know where they come from, what Ineos and Team Sky stood for, yeah, it's kind of sad. But hey, you have to start somewhere. I don't know if they can I was particularly impressed with Josh Tarling this week. Josh Tarling was good this week. Really good. I don't know if they can rebuild towards what they once were. I have my doubts about that. You know, everything has evolved so quickly that there's a bunch of changes that need to happen there. But anyways, you know, at least they try, and it seems like they have a bunch of motivated guys. Winning with the team is always very satisfying, and we could see that after the stage. So I want to give a shout out to Magnus Sheffield. You know, I mean, he was impressive today. Very, very strong. Yeah. Even when he was out there, he attacked. He caught the little group of Pedersen, dropped those guys. I guess Vlasov was in there. Vlasov was there.
And Felix Gall was there. Like really good climbers.
Really good climbers, dropped those guys. And then when Jorgenson went on the last climb, initially I said, okay, Jorgenson is going to eat him up. And he stagnated, and then he lost time on the climb again. So great performance of Sheffield. It's also a guy that, in my opinion, there's more potential in that guy than what we've seen. He's a great time trialist, and obviously in the climbs he can defend himself. Not a pure climber, but for these kind of races, 1 week races, I think we haven't seen the last of this guy. He's 23 years old?
Well, what's crazy is he hasn't won a race in 3 years before today, and he's 22 years old. So that's wild. No, Johan, I agree. I never know quite what to think about him. He's never bad. Like he racks up a lot of really good results. If you remember, he was 6th at Flanders last year. It's really good for a 21-year-old. And then 4th overall, outside of winning the stage, which was an amazing ride, finished 4th overall. He was only like 19 seconds behind Thymen Arensman, his teammate, in 3rd. So good GC, like almost guys like this, I almost feel like it's almost a curse because you're so good. And this is how Jorgensen was before he went to Visma. It's like you're good at everything, and then it can be difficult to focus on one thing, and you're kind of always racking up really good results, but not the best. You're never dialing in on anything. So I never quite know where to place him in the rider type.
Well, he was extremely happy today. If you see his interview, he's super emotional, and also how hard it is nowadays to win a race in professional cycling.
Yeah. Well, he also needed this too. Remember, he was with you at the Tour of Switzerland. Yeah, he was in the group with Gino Mater, I believe.
Yeah. He said he dedicates this win to Gino Mater. He said, after what happened that day, because he was with Gino Mater in that downhill, and he said, he would never have thought that it was possible again to win a race. So it was, a bunch of emotions today, and strong guy, really strong guy, really nice guy. We had him on the podcast. 2 years, I think.
We said Matteo Jorgenson. I'm just remembering this now for this episode last year. So if you come on this show, you'll probably win either the overall or a stage at Paris-Nice.
It was not for this. It was not for this episode.
We had him on the day after he won Paris-Nice.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So Brad, 2026 Paris-Nice could be. Yeah, it could be you.
Yeah.
Before we go, we should about the person that was off the front when first was Mads Pedersen. Not really his cup of tea this race, and then he stayed away. I couldn't quite figure out why he was off the front, but it was because he was worried Jorgensen was going to win the stage and take his green jersey. But the green jersey sprint point was at the top of Col d'Ez, which if you ride the back of Col d'Ez, I mean that's steep. That's hard for me. I've never won the Tour, so I would say that's a difficult climb, and he was first up that climb against really good climbers. I think he kind of pulled the pin after that, but we were talking about Sanremo for Tirreno. This to me, if he wins Tirreno or Sanremo next weekend, like this, is you can point at this and be like, wow, he's in really good shape. And he was 10th on the summit finish yesterday, ahead of Jorgensen, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's definitely ready for Milan-Sanremo. He's been incredible this week. Impressive.
Is he fast enough to win in a sprint? I guess is my only concern. Does he not need?
I mean, against Ganna, Van der Poel, Pidcock, and Pogacar, I think so. He can be there with these guys.
And I guess it's a weird sprint. If I'm even thinking back in my mind to Sanremo sprints, and you get some weird results, just stuff you didn't really see coming out of that group. So at 300 Ks in the legs, you're probably sprinting a little bit differently.
After 300 kilometers, Spencer, it's like, most of the guys, they get to the bottom of the Poggio and they say, oh, I'm still feeling great. And then all of a sudden, you have to get out of the saddle and say, oh, I don't feel so good anymore. And a lot of sprinters just don't have it anymore at the end. Pedersen with this form, he's one of the co-favorites in my opinion. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, definitely. I think Pedersen. I mean, we've seen how well he rides when the weather conditions aren't great. I mean, he won his world title in 2019 in horrendous conditions. But I would think that Mads, although Sanremo is one he'll want to win, I don't think it's going to be a hard enough sprint finish and a hard enough race where it kind of is a war of attrition that he gets to the end, and he seems to always be the strongest when everyone else is on their knees. But I think, he's won Gent-Wevelgem, of course, but I think Paris-Roubaix is the one that really he wants to win, like most riders. But so I think that period of, when we get to sort of E3, Flanders, Roubaix, I think that is the week. I think this week is now setting him up for the Classics weekend. But Sanremo, of course, he'll be there and he'll want to win and he'll put his hat in the ring to try and win. But I think the one he's really after, and has been for many years now, is Flanders or Roubaix.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah.
Those are better races for him. He can win Flanders. He can win Flanders, and those races are made for him.
I think Flanders more than Roubaix this year, the way he's riding.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he's been second already in Flanders.
Yeah.
As a very professional, he's been second already.
Yeah.
And this is a great rider, great guy. I really like the guy. Super
Yeah,
nice.
I love him.
Yeah.
If the tour was right now, he would win. Like if it took place in the winter, spring, he would. He's the best rider in the world.
Yeah.
Weather. It's a weird trend. Maybe it's not weird, but if you filter out last year's Sanremo, the last 2.5 years of major one-day races have all been won by solo attacks. And I guess he proved today that he definitely could get off the front at one of those races, Flanders probably specifically, and stay away. Johan, Joao Almeida, UAE had sickness, so we don't want to slam on the UAE team. They weren't there. Almeida was there. He had that great summit finish, and then just kind of, I think I said when we were doing the preview for this, he's in the doghouse in terms of betting. I'm no longer betting on Joao Almeida to win stage races. I'm going to be too harsh on him, but I want you to what's your take on Almeida in Paris-Nice?
Well, I mean, I think the way he's able to finish a stage on an uphill finish this year is of a different level. The last 500 meters of a climb, he showed this in Algarve. He showed it in today, this week in Paris-Nice. He's a bit inconsistent, and I've heard that he's not doing great in the cold and the rain. And then on top of that, he was a bit sick also. McNulty was really sick, had to abandon today, but Almeida was also sick. Listen, UAE was nowhere to be, not compared to what we're used of UAE in Paris-Nice. They've tried, but they just didn't have it. I'm not going to judge Joao Almeida on his performance. He won a nice stage. He beat Jonas Vingegaard, who was going full gas for the stage win. So the 2 times it was uphill finish where Jonas Vingegaard this year was trying to win were won by Almeida. Well, actually, no, the first one was won by Jan Christen because he gave it away.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But he was 2 times the strongest guy, right, on the uphill finish. So let's not be too harsh on it.
I mean, I like him. It's coming from I'm running the Joao Almeida fan club. I'm just wondering when are these wins coming? But as you said, it's hard to win in pro cycling. Before we go, Brad, I want to circle back on something you said. If Matteo Jorgenson wins the Tour de France, how do you envision that happening? Is that straight up against Tadej Pogačar? Is that a year where Pogačar is not at his best?
I would say at the moment it would be a year when Tadej Pogačar is not at his best or not at the race, which is very unlikely, isn't it?
Does happen.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, and the sad, let's not forget that accidents happen. I mean, look at Jonas last year. He was only just made the Tour and then was not himself at the Tour, but rode well. I mean, you can't expect Tadej to have a clean run every year. I mean, it's pretty sad that I'm talking like that. That the only way anyone else can win is if Tadej has a crash. I mean, but his dominance it seems to suggest that at the moment that you can't see anyone, particularly after last week. I mean, last year was phenomenal what he did, but what he's picked up this year was straight where he left off. And he, every race he's just getting more and more impressive. And there's a blueprint to how he races now. And he seems to execute that blueprint every race and get the job done. But I would at the moment, I would say that would be the only way I could see Matteo, winning. But that's not to say he's not capable of winning, which puts him in the hat for getting on the podium. But obviously he's got Jonas in his team, but he's capable and he's got the physical capabilities to win the Tour one day. Whether he does or not is another matter. But that's how highly I rate him.
I agree.
Yeah.
Today was impressed. It's just it's like the aura on and off the bike it definitely sticks out. And then Johan you're famously pro US cycling. I think you won over everyone in America's hearts and minds. What was your quote? There's no weirder person than an American cyclist.
Well, but listen, Matteo Jorgenson does not fall into that category.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I think that this, I'm very excited about this generation of rider because
I
they're
remember me saying that. Yeah,
like on like a really popular documentary that aired in the US.
Mostly, I was right. You know, I've never seen more weird personalities than Americans who turn pro cyclists. But
Traditionally, it would have been true.
Who was the one who,
was that?
who was the one who had all tattoos on his face? The one who had all tattoos on his face from Festina.
Oh,
David Klinger. Do you remember him?
Dave Klinger. Yeah, but that's not even the weirdest. That's
Okay.
has been a bunch. Yeah.
He was actually a really nice guy.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think it's going to be a great season. Really looking forward to it. Yeah.
I guess we should shout out Michael Storer, one stage 7 Pyrenees. We didn't say anything about him, but from the breakaway, kind of when he got into that breakaway at the start, because Wiesma was pacing and then Skelmoza crashed hard and they kind of stopped pacing. Like, I guess if you guys were racing it was like 100-kilometer stage. Would you think the breakaway has a better chance of staying away or a worse chance of staying away because it's so short?
I mean, there's 15 riders, 15 riders, and there was multiple teams with double riders. So nobody for GC. I mean, Sturrer was kind of close, but not that close. So yeah, I thought they had a good chance. I mean, especially at the bottom of the climb, if you saw that the difference, almost 2 minutes at the bottom of the climb, Philippe pulling full gas for Sturrer. So they were pretty confident. A great win for that guy.
Yeah, I mean, good riding. You say Alaphilippe, he was key, and then he was in that final group pretty far today for Storer. Caught back on one of the descents after he got dropped. So impressive riding from Alaphilippe. Mm-hmm. All right, well, we will. Johan, you guys will be back on for Milan-Sanremo on Saturday, and then I guess we can't. Brad, you'll be back on later this spring. We can't talk about it yet, but we got big things planned. Thanks for joining us today, and we will talk soon.